Morning, everybody. Some rain falling across the GTA. It's 16 going to 19 later today. It's Friday, October the 4th. During the 1970s and 80s, more than 60,000 Canadians were infected with HIV and hepatitis C when the Red Cross began unknowingly distributing contaminated blood. The play Tainted tells the story of one family gravely affected by the scandal. Writer Kat Lanteigne and Dr. Dawn Francis, formerly with the American Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, join us now. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, guys.
Doctor, first of all, can you take us back the 20 years and give some perspective as to what was happening at that time?
Well, the beginning, obviously, is we didn't know what was happening except for young, healthy people were dying. And those young, healthy people were people who received transfusions, people who anti-hemophilic material, who were gay, and who were intravenous drug users. And so it really looked like a picture of a dangerous infectious disease, but we didn't know what it was for several years before we isolated the virus. And the question was what to do about it.
Mm-hmm. Kat, you described this in your play as the single largest public health crisis that Canada has ever faced, and I think that's very accurate. But because we have short-term memory these days, do you find that people don't really think about this issue anymore?
I think people don't really think about it, and certainly anybody from my generation and younger probably wouldn't know unless they were told, unless they had a family member that was affected or found out some kind of other way. So for me, doing a piece of theater is a way to immortalize the story forever, because it gives people an opportunity to be able to engage in it in a very personal way, and gives people an opportunity to do the play outside of Toronto, and that's really important.
What was, of all the things you could write about, what was it about this particular story? Obviously, the scope of it was huge and impacted everybody to some degree because everybody was terrified of what was happening. But why this story?
This story in particular, so I had an extended family member that was impacted by tainted blood, and I was quite young when I learned about it. And I had an uncle on my dad's side of the family who had AIDS, so AIDS was a familiar story to me and my family. But what wasn't familiar to me was the government betrayal piece. And that took a very, very long time for me to digest and for me to understand why, when they did know the blood was tainted, they never recalled the blood. And it seemed like such an un-Canadian thing to happen. And so it really burned in my mind to be able to find out why that could occur, because clearly not all of these people were bad people. So I needed to try to understand why they made bad choices.
And Doctor, there is now talk over making blood clinics private, and you think that's a dangerous move?
I think we got enough lesson from the story that's told in Tainted that we should not repeat that mistake over again. So obviously when you see a play like this, it's such a wonderful way to describe a horrendous story, which is just really with one family and how it picks them away. And then in that story you see what happened before, and you would walk out saying, we probably shouldn't repeat that again.
And for people who want to be part of this discussion, but as you said, the younger generations, they're not really very familiar, and there's certainly not the same kind of emotional connection to this story. Why should they be concerned, in your opinion, about privatizing blood clinics?
Well, the history of blood transfusions, especially that's not inactivated, is you want to choose the healthiest donors you could find. And you certainly wouldn't want to locate a place next to impoverished areas of a city where maybe former intravenous drug users and such would not tell the truth and go ahead and donate their blood or plasma in order to get financial returns. And we've known that for probably 50, 100 years in medicine, that the more you pay for donated parts of the body, the lower quality you'll get, because people are doing it for financial reasons and will not necessarily tell the truth of what their infections were in the past.
What do you want people to take away from this after they've seen your play?
Well, I think thematically, I think two of the things is that denial never works, ever. It's probably one of the most dangerous things that we can have in our culture. and that the only way to forgiveness is through love. Those are thematically the things that I want them to take away. And I, on a bigger scale, I hope that I make maybe just a little tiny activist of them all, so they know that it's really important that when you know something and you know it to be the truth, that's really the time to use your voice and to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves anymore.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, Kat Lanteigne and Dr. Dawn Francis. And the play is called Tainted. It is on now through Sunday, October 12th at the Aki Studio Theater in the Daniels Spectrum, which is 585 Dundas Street East. A pleasure to meet you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.